everyone, thanks for joining again. Today I'm going to show you how to make these little spiral rings. So we'll start with this one because it's going to give you the basic spiral pattern that you need, and then you're going to be able to play around and decide how you want to decorate it to make it look unique. To start, you'll need a few tools. You'll definitely need a pair of cutters, and then your choice whether you have chain nose or flat nose pliers, something of that sort. You will need a ring mandrel of sorts. If you don't have one of these, you can find something else to use. I used to use a pool stick when I didn't have a ring mandrel. Definitely better if you have one of these. Also need a pair of round nose pliers. First one, we're gonna start with 12 inches or 30 centimeters of 20 gauge round wire. And I'm gonna switch camera angles here because we're gonna use our ring mandrel next. Okay, find something that works here so we can see. Good. All right, so take this and decide which size of ring you're gonna make, and we're gonna start about half an inch or half of a size or a full size above that. I would say just half of a size. So if I wanted a size 7, I'm gonna start half a size up and wrap around the ring mandrel once, go around the back side and let it cross, and then bring it around the front. So right now you're going to end up with a band that is 2 wires thick. On the next variation, we start with a little bit more wire and we go with 3 wires across the band. So it's going to be your preference. You might just have to start with some more wire at the beginning. Okay, so our wires are crisscrossed at that, and we'll kind of push it down because this one will shrink a little bit as we wrap the wires around it. So just above the 7. And then we're going to start to twist the wires. So pulling tight, twisting around, making this spiral pattern. Keep pulling and keeping that spiral pretty tight. So here you can decide how large you want your spiral to be. And as you go along, if you notice like the middle sometimes pops up, what you can do is take a hammer, and sometimes you can tap without scratching, but if you're worried about that, you can just put a little cloth over your hammer. I have this little polishing cloth that I use, and then just go in and kind of hammer it. These are the times when I wish I had like a heavier duty ring mandrel, but it still works for me all right. So cool. So this is what we have so far. This is going to be the basis for a lot of your ring designs. So these are really great to start off with to build up your skills before moving on to something more elaborate. All right, that's about the size that I'm going to have this spiral, so we still have some left to work with. Now you can take it off of the mandrel. Use a pair of pliers. These are called needle nose, flat nose pliers, and I am so happy that I got these. They're probably the tool that I use the most after the cutters. Okay, so from here, actually let me switch to the camera, a different camera angle. All right, this is better. Now you can't see my feet, unless you're into that, in which case I'm gonna have to start charging for these videos. So the next thing we want to do is wrap this wire around the base, or the band. So the trick with this is when you start to wrap, you want to kind of get it going through first, and then because this can be difficult, sometimes it can get too far away from the spiral. So to keep it as close as possible, I take that wire and I kind of push it towards the inside of the spiral, and then I'll grab it from the other side and bring it around. So that way it just helps keep it closer to it. Now to get it tight around the band, because even if your band at this point is kind of maybe it's a little open, like they're not sitting really close together, when you do this next part, it'll tighten everything up. So now you can grab this, and what I'll do is pull it towards me, and if it's still not tight enough, I might wiggle it, pulling it in each direction, and that will normally tighten it up around the band. And then if you want, you can always go in and adjust it this way. Okay, now from here, if you wanted to be done, you could just trim this off. That would be another style. You wouldn't have any like decorations on the side, but for now we're just gonna leave that and do the same thing on the other side, going through the center. Pushing that in towards the spiral. And then tightening it around the band. And if your spiral starts to like overlap itself because of this part that we're doing, you can just go in with a pair of pliers. Just be careful you don't scratch, and just readjust it. All right. So now this is what we're left with. So for this other design here, we're just gonna do this little like swoop thing on the side, which just kind of gives it a cool look. But what I would be careful of is where you choose to attach it on the side. Don't have it too far, like don't come down to like 3 o'clock and 9 o'clock, mainly because when you're wearing it, it could bug you if it's too far like between your fingers. This ring is like small enough gauge that you probably really won't feel it, but if you're working with a thicker gauge wire, you might definitely feel those bumps. Okay, so all we're gonna do is just this little like U shape on the side, and then you'll do the same thing, wrapping it around the band. I would hold this in place so you keep the shape. Hold it with your thumb. Let's see. There we go. And then just loop it around. I'm going to do just one time. And I'm going to choose to trim it on the outside, but up close to the top, just so that that isn't on the inside and it's not going to scratch my finger when I wear it. Very good. And then you always want to check these, because this is the part, if it's too long, it can snag on your clothes or catch your skin. So you can always like trim that down, push it, or even come in with a little metal file and file it down so that it's not so sharp. And then I go in and I just kind of squish everything down in place. So then the same thing on the other side. We make that loop, try to get it the same as the other side. Oh, that one was easier. I'm getting good. And then squish it. Okay. All right, so that is the first variation. Let's do the next one. Same thing as before, but now we're starting with 15 inches instead of 12. And we're gonna make this band 3 wires across. There you go. So I'm gonna go ahead and do the spiral and everything, and I'll bring you back right after that. Now for this design, we are at the spiral in the center. I made this one a little larger. We're gonna anchor it down to the band first, like we did in the first ring. So come to the inside. I won't repeat all of this again. I will just speed through it. So now that we have the sides attached to the band, let's start making the spirals. We're not going to need all of this wire, so let's trim it, and we'll trim it equally on both sides so that the spirals end up the same. Let's do just like an inch. Keep an inch on both sides. And now you will need your round nose pliers. From here, we're going to spiral in, and I'm not going to do a long thing on the spirals. If you would like a spiral tutorial, please let me know in the comments down below, and I'll spend a little bit more time on different spiral variations. This one we're going to make a tight spiral, so we're going to grab the end, start to get it going. And to make this a closed, tight spiral, I'm going to come in, squeeze the inside, and then maybe get it going a little bit more. I want the wires to touch. Sorry, my neighbors outside are a little loud. And then you can grab it like flat, like a pancake, and just start to curl it all the way in until it's side by side with the other spiral. We'll do the other side. I am actually filming this part again because yesterday I was editing this and realized I wasn't filming during this part. So this is the next morning, and it's a little bit noisier outside. So I hope that doesn't show up so much. Yeah, I don't know. Everyone's awake like little morning birds. There we go. 2 simple variations. These are a lot of fun. You can play around with different size wire. You can play around with the decorations that you put. You can put beads in them. These are just really fun little stackable rings that you can make very quickly and easily. Let's talk very quick on sizing. Wire rings can be a little tricky because of the wrapping that goes around the band. So if I stick this on the mandrel, because of, oops, I don't know if you can see, because of the inner wrappings, it's going to be a little deceiving and not always accurate on here. So you have to kind of play with these enough that you get good at knowing the size. I like to use my rings, my rings, my fingers as sizes. I know this is a size 6, 7, 8, 9. No kidding, for real. So I can always test it on my own hand. Anyways, that's besides the point. So when you do need to finish this, a lot of times your ring might shrink up because of the way that you've wrapped it. So you might need to stretch it a little bit more. And a lot of times you can get like an extra half size or a full size just by stretching this. When I worked at the boutique, I would have people try on the rings in the store, and sometimes they would be just a little too small, so I would put them on the ring mandrel and I would stretch them out, and then it would be ready for them. I wouldn't have to make a whole another ring. So when you do put it on the mandrel, we're going to take our hammer with a little cloth over the top, and we're just going to start to kind of nudge it. And what this will do is, one, it'll stretch the band. This will also give you a nicer shape to your band. So if your wires are still kind of far apart from one another or in an odd shape, this will help to give it a nice round shape. So you want to make sure you do both sides. You saw I took it off and I flipped it over and put it back down. So this is also doing what's called work hardening, where when I hit the metal, or the longer that I bend and work with metal, the harder it becomes, which helps to stabilize it. So now we have this nice shape, and it fits a size 7. You can do that with both of them. Just be careful if you have stuff on the front that you don't hit the front of it, because you can end up messing up your spirals, and that would be sad. This one's a perfect example how the wires just aren't quite all the same, so maybe I can even that out when I put it on here. So here it's going to stretch them out. Sometimes you can even just do it with your fingers and kind of press it down. I always like to use the hammer. You could always, I guess, go in and give it a tap everywhere. I don't know, sometimes I just like to hit things. So I don't know if it's actually doing anything, but it's fun. Oof. There we go. Oh yeah, see how much nicer that looks now? Cool. So here's our rings. If you would like to patina these and give them an antique look, I will post the link for that tutorial in the description below. Please check that out. And I guess I'll see you guys next time. Have a great weekend. And oh, one more thing. I almost forgot. So question for you. Which tutorial would you prefer I do next? So I've been working on these earrings, this little pattern. Or I have this awesome hammerhead shark. We could call it a pendant thing. So in the comments below, let me know which of these you prefer I do next, because I will do that for you, because I love you. Seriously, I love you. Thanks, guys. Goodbye. Don't forget to subscribe.